Hello to whoever is watching this video. I have not posted videos in months for a multitude of reasons, one of them being because, well, I screwed up my laptop by spilling water on it. So being able to record like I used to becomes a little bit more difficult because, well, I don't have USB ports because I have to have an external USB keyboard in order to use my laptop now, which sucks. But it happens. So, here's what I'm doing today, okay? And this is gonna seem really strange. Hold on, let me move my microphone. Okay. It's gonna seem this really weird thing. It's this idea that I had the other day after talking to a friend of mine, and basically what I'm going to do is I'm just going to be playing a game that doesn't really require a whole lot of my attention, being Dark Souls, which is really odd considering of this game's notorious difficulty level, but aside from that, I'm having a hard time deciding what class I want to play. So I'm trying to think. I'm gonna go with a really defensive build. So I'm trying to decide whether or not I want to go with either the warrior or the knight. And I'm thinking, screw it, we're gonna go heavy. We're gonna be fat this whole game. So basically, what the thing I want to do with this is I'm going to talk mostly just about random things. I'm not going to talk much about the actual game I'm playing, which is going to seem rather silly or strange. So if you're here to watch Dark Souls, or you're here to watch somebody just get massacred as they play Dark Souls repeatedly, or if you're here to watch cutscenes or anything like that, I'm sorry to disappoint you. I'm not going to be doing that. I've played through this game multiple times in the past. It's been a while, so I'm still, let me see. Okay, that's how I do that. How's the, yeah, okay, so this is gonna be my block button. Yeah, get out of here. So basically, I'm going to just talk about random things that come to my mind, namely one of the things that I remember I wanted to talk about, at least when the idea was first conceived, was basically my life as the type of gamer I am and how it has affected my life in random ways. And like I said, this seems like a really silly topic. Like, it seems really odd that somebody would be like, let me talk about how being a gamer has affected my life. Because, you know, usually that sort of thing is, wait, if you look up top, big old demon waiting for me, oh spooky. Too bad I'm saving, actually no, I could probably kill him with the black fire bombs now. I think I'll do that. Basically, whoa, I wanted to sort of explain to people how, I don't want to say, oh, my life has been difficult, because it really truly hasn't, but how basically being a gamer is really one of those odd sort of, okay, I'm not going to be able to finish you off like that, just, you didn't throw the firebomb. How basically the people I've associated with and just pretty much how everything collectively has made things really interesting for me on a strange scale of being a gamer, one would say. And I don't know. It's one of those weird things. And yes, I know I use the humanity. I have a plan. Don't worry about it. Don't worry your pretty little face. So basically, I guess the quickest way to start off with a life story is to start at the beginning. Ever since I was very young, as far as I can really remember, I've always been a gamer. That hurt. Not really. It was more like it just stopped me. I mean, even like when I was really young, like I just remember coming home from school, from like elementary school, playing video games with like my dad. I remember just really random memories, like why would anyone ever remember such a thing, like this particular time when my dad and I were playing this football game on the Super Nintendo, and how I kept getting mad because I wasn't winning, and he tried to make it to where I could actually score a touchdown. I don't know, it was one of those really weird memories. But I mean, even in, let's say, like at the kindergarten, I can remember coming home and just wanting to get on my Super Nintendo and play Super Mario Kart. Like, I just remember these things. And so basically, as far as I can remember, I've always been a gamer. I mean, maybe the levels of, you know, like if you're a hardcore gamer and whatnot is different for everybody on, you know, like I feel like I'm just talking nonsense, like I'm just looping in circles. That's why I keep stopping. I'm like, is anything I'm saying making any sense? Yes. And so basically what I was saying is throughout my whole life, being the person I've been, being a kid and a teenager and an adult, at the age of currently 23 years old, I have 23 I think. Let me think about this. Yes, I'm 23, and I've just always been a gamer. Now it's one of those things, like, you know, when I was younger, it was like you played video games, you didn't really think much about it, nobody thought much about it, it just sort of happened. Everybody at some point in their life at any age has had a video game console in their house, and mostly everybody had at some point played their video game consoles as well. Now, the difference between me and other people is the fact that I played the games a little bit more. I don't want to say religiously is the wrong word for it, because then that just makes it seem like it was an unhealthy obsession. Well, at least when people normally say religiously, like I don't know. Now what I'm saying just sounds like I'm being rude and insensitive or something like that. I don't know. Whatever. Progressing on, though. So when I was a kid, like let's say the beginning of elementary school, it never really seemed like a big deal. Like, it never seemed like a problem that, you know, played video games, whatever, nobody really cares, you know, because nobody really did care. And the only time that it really made me, or at least nowadays, that it makes me think, like, hey, you've been a gamer for a really long time, was when I was in about 5th grade. There was actually around the time when I had met, basically, my first real good friend, and the reason why the two of us began talking was because I was drawing a map of the map that you would see in the game Final Fantasy Tactics. And, you know, it was like with all the dots and all the name locations and everything like that, and he recognized it, which was really odd. Do I want to put anything into intelligence? Nah, we're going endurance. Which was really odd. It's like one of those things, like, how would somebody recognize, like, just a bunch of lines and dots, and the other question is, why was I drawing a map of, you know, a video game world when, you know, it already existed? It's just really weird. It was just one of those things, you know, like, it's my hobby, you know. It was my hobby when I was a kid, hobby is growing up, you know. Despite the fact that I don't exactly have a strong artistic ability, I still like to draw these things, like these or attempt to draw these characters from these games I was playing, or drawing, say, the maps or the weapons or anything like that. I mean, it's just, you know, it was one of those things I did as a kid. Now, with that, it's well, okay, let me keep going on with that. He was one of, like, you know, my first friends, and, you know, he played video games a lot, and he did his own thing, you know, and it was fine, but it was one of those, weird little things where it was like we were really good friends on the scale that we had a strong connection to, like, each other through video games, but also because we also had a creative interest in things such as, like, you know, like, I mean, he had a game called RPG Maker, which, if you don't know what that is, it's basically where you create your own little RPG. And me being the person I was with the games I was exposed to as a young child, I've always had a strong interest in Japanese RPGs. It's just, you know, I mean, like Final Fantasy, that was pretty much the first game that I grew up on. I mean, of course, there were other games like Super Mario and whatnot. I mean, everybody, you know, at some point has played Super Mario. But the game that or the games that I sunk the most time into was like Final Fantasy 2 and 3, which were actually Final Fantasy 4 and 6, you know, with the whole complicated yada yada yada. And ooh, now I gotta think. Do I want to go and grab that stuff? You know what? I'm not gonna grab that. I don't feel like dying already. And so did I actually set this bonfire? Because if not, I really need to. Okay, so this game does require a little bit of my intelligence. I'm so sorry. Oh, I did. That's right, because I leveled up. So that basically leads to what I'm getting at as a big old collective, you know, point to me explaining all this stuff. I've always played games, despite, you know, the people I was friends with, despite any situation that was going on in my life. Video games, it's always come back to the video games. Always. This guy's got a lot of health, huh? Bastard. Now, that guy up top's killing me, and I don't like it. And, but yeah, basically, the big thing about that was, I don't want to say the ridicule, but there was always this, like, stigma, or not stipulation, but basically, like, everybody was like, oh, video games. Yeah, sure, everybody played video games, everybody, you know, had that family console at some point or another. Like, when the N64 came out, everyone had an N64, which ironically was the system in my life that I completely missed out on. I don't know how that happened, it just did. Like, I went from Super Nintendo to a PlayStation, and, you know, there was no Super Nintendo or anything like that, so I missed out on, like, Mario 64. So when, you know, I think of, like, my favorite Mario game, and everybody says, like, Mario 64, or, you know, that's one of the games that a lot of people, like, you know, started on, you know, because, like, I think back to a lot of my friends. It's like, hey, what's your favorite Mario game? What's your favorite Zelda game? What's your favorite anything game? It always goes back to the 64 games. And, you know, I'm not taking away from anybody say, no, those games are not that good, because that's not true at all. I don't even say that. What I say is, that's a bummer, because that's your favorite. And then I say, what's your favorite? Or not what's your favorite, but why is it your favorite? And everyone says the same thing. It was the first Mario game that they had ever played. And to me, it's like, ugh, that sucks, because with me, you know, I started very young. I mean, we had a Nintendo Entertainment System in the house when I was growing up, and then we went to the Super Nintendo, so, you know, it was like all the Mario games. All of them. They were all there. I played all of them. I don't want to say, like, you know, you can't really include the CDI Mario games, because that's just, you know, a whole different basket of disaster. But, basically, you know, we had all these standard Mario games that you could think of. Even Mario is Missing, you know? Like, even the black sheep of the group, yes, we had that. So, for me, it just felt like, you know, people, they didn't really want to expand their interests in a way, because they're like, no, I'm not going to play Super Mario because I've already played Mario 64. Why would I downgrade to a inferior Mario game? And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, Super Mario World on the Super Nintendo is, you know, what a lot of people, same with Mario 64, it's what a lot of people started on, yet it's not, you know, the greatest game ever, but it is still a very great game. Just like with me, I've played Mario 64, did not enjoy it too much, probably because I played it too late into the game. I mean, I played it after, say, Mario Sunshine, Super Mario Sunshine, and, you know, so when Mario for me at least, controls a lot better on Mario Sunshine, it kind of pains me to, you know, play Mario 64 where it feels like Mario's skating on ice at all times. So basically what I'm saying is, what am I saying? I'm lost. I don't even know what I'm saying anymore. I think for me, it really bummed me out that people, you know, like, their favorite of the series always seems to be the first one of the series that they played. And that has always been a big bummer for me, especially when, like, you know, I'm talking to people who say that they're gamers and yet they don't want to accept when something is a superior title, if that makes sense. Now, of course, I'm no video game reviewer. I don't review video games as much as I would like to, but I think the reason I don't is because despite the fact that I'm very open to a lot of points and a lot of different views, I feel as though people will look at my opinion as being biased and or like one-sided, despite the fact that, like I said, I'm very open to other possibilities and different scenarios and situations. Now, that being said, alright, this guy needs to go somewhere. That being said, if I were to talk about, say, what my favorite Mario game is, I would say Super Mario Sunshine. And this is, of course, having played and grown up with Super Mario, like the SNES, like Super Mario World, you know, with the Star Road and everything, all that stuff. And so for me, it's like, I look at a title and I look at the way that the title improved, instead of just sitting there saying, this one is my favorite because it's the one that I first started with. Now, I'm not discrediting anybody saying they're not a gamer if they haven't, say, basically had the same gaming experiences that I have. That just doesn't seem fair in any way, shape, or form. But what does bother me is when someone calls themselves a gamer and they try to compare themselves to me. Now, with that rather douchey sounding thing said, I'm not saying I am, again, I think I said this earlier, but I'm not saying in any way, shape, or form that I am superior to anyone else, and I don't think I'm better than anyone else in a gaming aspect, except for my buddy Kyle, because he's just absolutely wretchedly horrible at video games. But he understands that, don't you, Kyle? I doubt you're watching this, but if you are, give me a high five next time we see each other.